Yo, where's everybody who voted for President Biden? Well, President Biden signed off on the Ukraine using U.S. missiles to fire at Russia, and this is all, putting the United States at risk for World War III. Listen, I want to play this video from Candace Owens. She did an amazing breakdown on, pretty much the research that she's been doing and what she's been saying for like years in regards to the United States, Russia, and the Ukraine. So listen, we're gonna check this out, and I'm gonna do some commentary at the end. There's also an article I want to read from Donald Trump Jr. in regards to some remarks he made about Biden, which is causing this whole thing. So listen, let's get into this video real quick.
Way. Like, I was the first person when the Ukraine stuff was going on, not kidding, and I got completely pilloried left and right by people going, oh, are you a Putin supporter, blah, 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 when the invasion started. And all I did was simply read Putin's speeches. This is a real tweet from me. This is a real tweet from me from 3 years ago. I wrote, I suggest every American who wants to know what's actually going on in Russia and Ukraine read this transcript of Putin's address. As I've said for a month, NATO, under the direction from the United States, is violating previous agreements and expanding eastward. We are at fault. You can imagine the press coverage on this, left and right. Oh, she's telling people to read Putin's speech. Putin, dictator, dictator. And it's like, guys, have you figured it out yet that our press lies about everything? They lie about everything. Of course they were lying about this. This is, of course, the war hawks. Of course, the CIA. Of course, Operation Mockingbird. Suddenly, they're able to get people who couldn't even point out Ukraine on a map to suddenly start posting flags, the Ukrainian flags, which they definitely did not know that was a Ukrainian flag until they, fortunately, Apple suggested it when they were typing it on their keyboards. Like, oh, yeah, that's it. That's the Ukrainian flag. I support Ukraine. Why do you support Ukraine?
Nothing.
What do you know about this region? You support it because propaganda works and because the Western media, I would argue, is more propagandist than the Eastern media. I'm not even kidding. I would make that argument today. But of course, I was called a Putin puppet. Oh, she must be on the Kremlin's payroll. Conservatives, like I said, and liberals alike were just like, how dare she not understand the newest plight, the never-ending war we got out of Afghanistan yesterday, but we're getting involved in Ukraine today. And so now I have been proven correct, and people are now starting to speak about World War III and are now starting to speak about and dialogue about NATO. And so in case you don't know the backstory, okay, the reality is that the Soviet Union, before they agreed to taking down the Berlin Wall, they were given assurances by America, the UK. I mean, you can actually look this up. Here is a website that I'm going to provide the link for this. All of the declassified documents that show that NATO that the West gave security assurances to the Soviet leaders. And they said to Gorbachev, they said, hey, we will not expand, we promise, if you do this and you agree to this and you agree to everything that we're saying, we promise NATO will never expand 1 inch eastward. That was what they wanted. They said, we're willing to work with the West, but obviously you guys we don't want your military on our borders. And they said, no, it's fine, we'll do that, totally. And then suddenly we start expanding eastward. Okay, it was their red line. They were always very clear about this. Putin was giving speeches leading up to this saying, hi, do you see that the West is just able to just say whatever they want and then change their minds, then suddenly call us the problem? That they can't do a deal and stand by their word, and that they just convince the public that somehow we're the bad guys? So I didn't have to rely on Putin's word. I don't need to be a Putin puppet. I needed to rely upon declassified documents that our government has available to us, declassified documents that show that we did, in fact, give those security assurances. From Baker to Bush to Gates to Thatcher to Major to Warner, they were given so many assurances that NATO would not expand, and we did it, okay? That makes us the imperialists. And then it was even worse, guys, because we staged a coup in Ukraine. I mean, you really have to wrap your head around what we are doing. Put yourself in that circumstance, okay? Let's say there's a country that you view to be an adversary. Let's call it China. Let's say China. I think China is a threat, a reasonable threat to America. And we decide to do a deal with China. And we say, okay, China, we'll do a deal with you. But I want to be very clear. Part of our deal is that you cannot put troops on our border, not in Mexico, not in Canada, nowhere around us. And China says, yeah, that's cool. It's 1989. Let's do the deal. Let's shake our hands. But then they say, oh, well, we are going to put troops everywhere. We're going to put troops in Costa Rica. We're going to put troops in Ecuador. And we're going, hey, like, didn't we kind of agree that you wouldn't expand this way? And then finally they go, we're going to put troops in Mexico, and we're going to put troops in Canada. How are you feeling? How are you feeling about an adversary which gave you security assurances, are now basically surrounding you with the military? You are going to react, okay? Of course you're going to react. If you didn't react to it, you would be a bad leader. Of course, America would say, we need to go to war. We need to defend our land. And not only that, then we find out that China illegally stages a coup in Mexico and installs their own president. We did that in Ukraine on the border of Russia. We just overthrew a duly elected leader and said, now we got somebody that America can control in there. We did that in 2014. This is the reality. You have to wake up to what America has been doing. We have been the imperialists, and we are not doing this. The deep state is not doing this. The CIA and the Mossad working together to do all this crap has got nothing to do with the American people. They are not doing this for us. Maybe to the families that are corrupt and are involved, like the Bidens, the McCains, the neocon class of people who I deeply resent, but not you and me. No, they just want to be able to use our sons to go die in their never-ending wars as they imperialize, expand, and steal from other nations. That's the truth, okay? And if you want to hear a little bit more about that, I mean, I said that day one, I would not support what was happening in Ukraine. But here is Tucker discussing that on Rogan recently, I think maybe like 6 months ago. Take a listen.
I personally think the invasion was a bad idea. It didn't help anybody. I'm against war. I'm sad the war's ongoing. But they were pushed to this by a more powerful country, which would be the United States of America, with the threat of including Ukraine in NATO. It's really simple. And right before the invasion, days before the invasion, they send poor Kamala Harris, who has no idea what day it is, to the Munich Security Conference, an area she knows nothing about, no experience in it at all. And they send her there for one purpose, which is to announce at a press briefing, with all the cameras rolling, to Zelensky, right there, she says, we want you to join NATO.
They wasn't supposed to.
What? No other NATO members were clamoring for Ukraine. It didn't even qualify for NATO membership. Why would you say that? When Putin's got troops massed on the Ukrainian border, you send your vice president to the Munich Security Conference with the world watching and say this that no one even really wants. Why would you do that? To provoke war. Obviously. What's the other reason? And it was scripted. Like, Kamala Harris is not freeballing stuff. Like, she's saying what she's told to say. Obviously. It's not her area. She doesn't know anything about this stuff. She was told to say that. But why? To provoke a war.
Evil.
Obviously.
Evil.
So that was my read. I said that on Fox News. Not a lot of people liked it, but it just seemed obvious to me. I'm not making excuses for Putin. Please. I want to protect the United States, and I think this war really hurts the United States. Like, my motives are always right out there.
And that, my friends, is a part of the reason why Tucker was fired from Fox, because he stopped peddling the war hawk talking points and realized that he has children that could be drafted into these wars. He started hating the neocon class as much as I hate the neocon class. You know, it's not ironic. It's like not a coincidence that me and Tucker are always on these lists. You know what I mean? I showed you yesterday, like, we're on Israel's list of people who they say were being influenced by Qatar. We were on a list of people that Zelensky said were being influenced by Putin. And no, of course, we're not being influenced by anybody. We're just trying to tell the American people the truth. And sometimes, apparently, it takes 3 years for American people to wake up to the truth. Because if you go look at those comments of me sharing what Putin said and speaking about NATO, everyone was like, oh, I'm with you, Candace. I just don't understand. Don't you understand the threat of Russia? And I knew that one day people would wake up to the ridiculous Cold War propaganda and recognize that Russia has a smaller GDP than California, okay? They are not trying to expand and recreate the Soviet Union. That's a nonsense. The threat is the European Union, okay? The threat is the globalist state. We are everything that the Soviet Union aspired to be. It's just, look at a map, guys. I mean, it's just insane that people believe this rhetoric over and over again. They're lying to you about immediately, from the very beginning. We're always lying about what was happening between Ukraine and Russia. Just as I am telling you that they are also lying to you about what is going on in the Middle East right now with Israel. Does it make me popular? I'm not here to be popular. I'm here to make sure that we have a country that is free for my children to grow up in. I don't care about being invited to the right parties. I don't care about being controlled by certain lobbying groups, by getting money, by having the right sponsorships, by being applauded by the donor class. I hate the donor class, okay? They're the people that got us into this predicament in the first place. And so you now need to know that 3 years later, after we were called Putin puppets, now things have escalated in that territory, okay? It is just a simple fact that now Russia is saying that they are completely re-examining their nuclear doctrine. They are willing to go nuclear because of what they have just discovered. Ukraine fired 6 American-supplied longer-range missiles at Russia's Bryansk region. Okay, that is a fact. It happened. That is our weaponry that was given to Ukraine to attack Russia. I told you from the beginning we are fighting a proxy war in Russia. This is proof of that. Our missiles have now been sit there, so they can now say we have been attacked by the USA. That decision has been made by the Biden administration. And so what are they going to tell you? Putin's crazy for responding to that. Now speaking about nuclear, going nuclear, talking about nuclear weapons. He's saying, yes, we have formally lowered the threshold for using nuclear weapons. They are now back on the table. We are inching very close to World War III, and I think it's all related. I think what's happening in Ukraine is related to what's happening in Israel. I do not think any of this is by coincidence, okay? We have a lot of hot regions right now, and the way that the Western media continually lies about everything and is using the same smearing tactics for those of us who have been trying to get out and tell you the truth, okay? Wake up, examine these issues, and recognize that you will be the ones that suffer for your stupidity. That is the reality. We suffer when we remain ignorant. All of us, we suffer when we remain ignorant. So go listen to the perspectives of people like Tucker and the independent media who has been telling you the truth about every issue. I was anti-COVID from day one. Even when Trump did the lockdowns, I was against it. As a supporter of Trump, that was controversial. I said, this is the wrong decision. You don't lock down people, okay? I am pro-freedom always. Doesn't matter who it is that's in office and is making the decision. We have to make sure that we have morals that do not shake because of alliances, okay? We have to be America first, pro-freedom, always.
Right, so listen, shout out to Candace Owens. I just want to say this. I believe that sometimes, especially with black people in our community, we get so much information, whether it's, good or bad, but a lot of times it's the bad regarding Candace Owens. One thing I can appreciate about her, like I appreciate about like a Omarosa, I like anybody who's well-spoken. I can tell that she's extremely passionate about what she speaks about, and I respect it, you know what I mean? I just started to check out her podcast, so I don't know if you frequent her podcast or not, but I felt like, she gave away some good information and opened my eyes up to some things as it pertains to Russia, the Ukraine, and the United States. They had a deal that states that they are not supposed to inch towards the east and, not have any troops on their borders. And now they're supplying the Ukraine with U.S. With U.S. weaponry, and now they feel like they've been attacked by the U.S. So listen, I want to read this article from The Hill. So Trump Jr., Biden administration is trying to cause World War III by helping the Ukraine. And you heard what Candace said about Kamala going to that meeting, and she mentioned that she wanted the Ukraine to be a part of NATO, which they're not supposed to be involved with. So that's basically asking for a war. Listen, I want to read something else as it pertains to war after this too. So Donald Trump Jr., the eldest son of President-elect Trump, claimed that Biden administration is trying to cause World War III by helping the Ukraine in its war with Russia, which they're not supposed to. All right, the military-industrial complex seems to want to make sure that to get World War III going before my father has a chance to create peace and save lives. Trump Jr. posted on Twitter, "Gotta lock in those trillions, life be damned, imbeciles." Talking about the Biden administration, the ones who many people were upset with. See, and this is why I tried to tell y'all, you can't focus on one policy, even though having women in my life as friends, family, all of that, I understand the rights. I get it. There's different policies that will impact you. So you have to think about as it pertains to you understand what I'm saying? Like, you have to look at it as a whole. It's so easy to get wrapped into one policy and then forget about everything else that's blowing up around you, right? So listen, so he posted just after President Biden announced that the Ukraine as President Biden authorized the U.S. supplied long-range missiles inside of Russia. He authorized the Ukraine to use the U.S. authorized supplied long-range missiles. So he authorized long-range missiles for them to blast off into Russia. About 10,000 North Korean troops are aiding Russia in its war and expect to fight in the Ukraine within the next several weeks. Biden's post-election authorization renewed the question of whether Trump's administration would be supportive of Ukraine as Biden has been. So Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky told the Ukrainian media outlet that in an interview published Saturday that he thinks that the Russia-Ukraine war will end faster under Trump. So what is that saying? He thinks that the war will end faster under Trump. So that basically means that they have no respect for the current administration that's, that's going on now. So, and despite the money that they've probably sent over there as well. So listen, that's a whole nother thing. Over the weekend, Russia launched a massive drone and missile attack on the Ukraine and what is being seen as the largest barrage in recent months, officials said. So this was just a short article on what what Donald Trump Jr. had to say in regards to the Biden administration pretty much causing this war, which could trickle into World War III. I want to actually read this article, World III due to the United States. I wanted to read this article, and it says, what would a World War III potentially do to the United States? Just to let you know, in case you're trying to figure out, like, okay, what does that mean? What does a world war mean to the United States? So a world war would have devastating consequences for the United States, causing massive casualties, significant economic disruption, potential social unrest, and major shift in global power dynamics, including potential disruptions to supply chains, high inflation, and significant strain on the nation's resources. Even if the fighting didn't directly occur on America's soil, essentially it would drastically alter the fabric of American life and society, requiring major adjustments to daily life and government priorities. Right? So it says key impacts of war on the United States, military casualties. A global conflict would most likely involve large-scale deployment of American troops, leading to significant loss of life and injuries among members. Economic strain. The war effort would demand massive government spending, potentially leading to increased national debt, higher taxes, resource allocation away from the sectors of the economy. Supply chain disruptions, because that's going to be through the shipping and all of that. It's going to screw everything up. So if you don't listen, this is why I wanted to read this off. Supply chain disruptions. Global trade disruptions could cause shortages of essential goods, impacting consumer availability and prices. Prices are going to soar based on, availability, supply and demand. Prices will skyrocket. Social impact. All right. So public opinion could shift dramatically, impacting domestic politics and social cohesion, with potential for increased nationalism and anti-foreign sentiment. Cyber warfare. Potential of cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure, disrupting essential services like power grids and communication networks. That's your phone, that's the power, everything. I'm telling you, you don't want this to happen. And so this is why when I try to tell people that it took me to get to 41 years to realize this. So I realized, I said, I did vote for Kamala, but to be honest, I wasn't happy about it, just to be truthful. And I felt like my views were split down the middle, where I honestly was leading to a lot of the stuff that Trump, just in regards to the immigration, the economy. And I know people saying that the economy is the best that it's pretty strong right now, right? And I read an article earlier when they were saying, despite inflation, the economy is still strong, but people are struggling. So how great can it really be? It's like, come on, you know what I'm saying? People are struggling, real talk out here, like to even go to the grocery store. I catch myself going to the grocery store every 2 to 3 days, spending an exorbitant amount of money. Like, I'm like, damn, I was just here 2 days ago, spent $60. I was just here a few days ago, spent, you know what I'm saying? People are struggling. All right. So geopolitical shifts. Depending on the war's outcome, the United States global standing could significantly be altered, impacting alliances and international influence. Right. So nuclear threat is a major adversary. Possesses nuclear weapons. The risk of nuclear escalation could be a significant factor, leading to catastrophic consequences. And economic sanctions. Even without direct military engagement, severe economic sanctions could significantly impact the U.S. economy, potentially causing inflation and job losses. So there's a lot that's built around that, I would implore you, listen, you already know that on my channel, I typically talk about hip hop, female rap, just different things like that. But, I am going to do myself the favor for myself just to exercise my mind, because I've already, like, you know, during the day I know that I do these uploads on this channel, but I make sure that I watch content that's different than what I do, because I do think it's important to enrich yourself, to make sure that you know what's going on in the world. Like, you know, celebrity entertainment, all of that, that's one thing, but I think it's good to understand what is going on in the world and what's going on, you know, in the United States mostly, right? But I would implore you to just try to learn something little by little, even if you pick a specific policy that you're passionate about, right? Like, I heard everybody, you know, with the whole pro-choice movement as it pertains to, you know, what Kamala was fighting for, but then it was just like, I heard somebody have this great argument. They were like, they didn't hear anything about people who want to have kids, or pro-life, like in some sort of way that the woman said it, like, you know, they were talking about the taking out of the baby, but it wasn't anything about, like, you know, and actually I think Trump did talk about in vitro fertilization, and saying that he was going to make a way that didn't cost money for people to be able to, you know, who were struggling to have kids. But anyway, I just feel like this, right? Respect people's opinions and viewpoints. There's going to be people who are racist. Remove yourself away from those specific people. A lot of black people did vote for Trump for many different reasons, and as you see, even the Ukraine, which is being supplied U.S. weaponry, the president said that he feels as though that the war between the Ukraine and Russia will cease faster under Trump. But Biden is the one who's supplying them with weaponry. I don't get it. And they're not even in that whole NATO group, you know, classification. I just don't understand it. But listen, keep your eyes open. Try to learn something each and every day. Even if you're a content creator, try to expand your mind. You know, we love celebrity topics and all of that. And this is why I'm trying to, like, shift. Like, I want to make sure that I'm being well-rounded. And no matter if I feel as though, like, damn, like, I could have delivered better, but at least I'm trying. And you got to exercise the muscle, get it going, so then you learn more, you read more, and, you know, you retain the knowledge, and you're able to come and give it back. So listen, again, shout out to Candace Owens. I think she did a great job breaking it down, and, you know, in a way that people could understand it. Potent, pondering, never pandering. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel, thumbs up the video, and yeah, I'm up out of here. Peace.